January 2007, a radio studio in Sacramento, California. A crowd of contestants gather for a morning promotional stunt. The prize is a highly coveted Nintendo Wii. The challenge: hold your Wii for a Wii. Contestants must drink bottle after bottle of water, and whoever holds their urine the longest wins. Among them is a 28-year-old mother named Jennifer Strange. According to reports, she drank large amounts of water over about 3 hours, with some estimates placing it around 6 liters or more. It sounds like a harmless, slightly silly game. People are laughing, the radio hosts are joking, but inside Jennifer's body, a silent, deadly process is already unfolding. After the contest, she heads home, complaining of a terrible headache and sharp pain. A few hours later, she is found dead. How could a healthy young mother die from something the body needs to survive? We are taught from childhood that water is life. It makes up most of our blood, our muscles, and our brain. But what happened to Jennifer Strange was not a poisoning. She didn't swallow a toxic chemical. She swallowed something perfectly safe, and it destroyed her internal balance. To understand how, we have to follow the journey of a single glass of water. When you drink a glass of water, it flows down into your stomach, moves into your intestines, and eventually passes through the intestinal walls and into your bloodstream. In normal amounts, this is exactly what your body is built for. Water supports blood volume, regulates temperature, and keeps your kidneys filtering waste. 1 glass of water is perfectly harmless. But what happens when 1 glass becomes 2, and 2 becomes 10? When water enters the body faster than the kidneys can flush it out, the story shifts. The real emergency isn't happening in the stomach, it's happening in the blood. Your blood is a carefully balanced saltwater system. Floating within it are essential particles, and the most important one for fluid balance is sodium. Most people think of sodium as just the salt on their dinner table, but in the body, sodium acts like a quiet traffic controller. It helps decide where water goes. Normally, your bloodstream holds a very specific concentration of sodium, but as glass after glass of water enters your system, the water portion of the blood shoots up. The sodium doesn't disappear, it just becomes diluted. Think of it like this: if you drop a spoonful of salt into a small cup of water, it tastes highly concentrated. Drop that exact same spoonful into a massive bucket of water, and it barely registers. The amount of salt hasn't changed, but the concentration has. When the blood becomes too diluted compared to the cells around it, a condition called hyponatremia begins. This is the medical core of what people often call water intoxication. Hyponatremia simply means low sodium concentration in the blood. Normally, blood sodium stays in a very narrow range, roughly 135 to 145 millimoles per liter. Once it drops below 135, doctors call it hyponatremia, and when it falls toward 125 or below, it enters a dangerously severe zone. But the number alone is not the whole story. What matters just as much is how fast that number falls. This shift happens because of a fundamental rule of nature called osmosis. Water naturally moves from areas of low concentration to areas of high concentration, trying to balance things out. When the sodium level in your blood drops suddenly, the fluid outside your cells becomes less concentrated than the fluid inside your cells, so the water rushes into the cells. For most of your body, like your muscles or your skin, this slight swelling isn't immediately catastrophic. The tissues can stretch, but then the water reaches the brain, and the brain is different. Brain cells act like tiny sponges. As they absorb the excess water, they begin to swell. But here is the critical problem. Your brain is trapped inside your skull. The skull is a rigid, closed box. It does not expand like a balloon. It does not stretch like skin. It is a locked room with no extra space. As the brain cells swell, pressure builds rapidly inside this hard box. This rising pressure pushes against delicate brain tissue and restricts blood flow. At first, the symptoms might seem vague: a headache, nausea, a feeling of exhaustion. It looks like ordinary sickness, but inside the skull, the situation is becoming critical. As the pressure mounts, the symptoms escalate from confusion and lethargy to seizures. If the swelling continues, the brain is forced downward, pressing against the base of the skull. This can lead to coma, the halting of breathing, and ultimately, death. But how much water does it actually take to reach this point? The terrifying truth is, there is no universal fatal amount. A marathon runner might tolerate a different volume than a sedentary office worker. The danger is not just the amount of water, it is the speed. When water enters faster than the kidneys can flush it out, that narrow sodium range can be shattered, and if sodium drops rapidly, usually within a 48-hour window, the brain has no time to adapt. And Jennifer Strange was not the only documented case. In one case, a 64-year-old woman reportedly drank 30 to 40 glasses of water over a short period. She became confused, nauseous, and behaved in a way that could easily be mistaken for intoxication or psychiatric illness. Testing later showed that her sodium had fallen to around 92, an extremely dangerous level. In another case, a 23-year-old woman developed fatal hyponatremia after MDMA use combined with heavy fluid intake. Her sodium reportedly fell to around 115. Brain imaging showed massive swelling. She died 57 hours later. This danger can also show up somewhere far more ordinary. The marathon route. It is called exercise-associated hyponatremia. The twist is that in these cases, runners are not simply getting into trouble from dehydration. They may be drinking more plain water than they need while losing sodium through sweat over hours of exertion. Both forces push in the same direction: more water in the bloodstream, less sodium concentration to hold the balance. Reviews have estimated exercise-associated hyponatremia in marathon runners at rates ranging from under 1% to about 22%, with an average near 8%. In one Boston Marathon dataset, more than 60 out of over 1,300 collapsed runners had hyponatremia, and some severe cases required emergency treatment. These examples show that even well-intentioned habits can, in rare cases, push the body toward water intoxication. There is also a recognized condition called psychiatric polydipsia, where individuals with certain psychiatric conditions compulsively drink water, overwhelming their body's ability to regulate fluid. Even infants and small children, whose bodies are smaller and fluid systems more delicate, can be at severe risk if fluids are forced or improperly managed. People with kidney, heart, or liver conditions also struggle to clear excess water, making them highly susceptible to the balance breaking. These rare tragedies highlight several dangerous misconceptions we hold about hydration. The first is that more water is always better. The body does not operate on the rule that more is always better. It operates on balance. The second is that clear urine is always the goal. While dark urine indicates dehydration, constantly chasing completely clear colorless urine can actually be a warning sign of overhydration. The third misconception is that only dehydration is dangerous. Dehydration is incredibly common and dangerous, but overhydration can be equally deadly in rare situations. And finally, the idea that water can never be harmful. Ordinary water intake is safe and necessary, but extreme intake over a short time can overwhelm the body's delicate chemistry. So where does that leave us? Fatal water intoxication is rare, genuinely rare. The vast majority of people who drink water, even a lot of it, even during a workout, will never come close to this kind of danger. This video isn't meant to make you nervous about your water bottle. But Jennifer Strange's story reveals something true about how the body actually works. It isn't a container that gets healthier the more you fill it. It's a balanced system. Sodium and water working together, neither one safe in isolation from the other. I'll see you in the next case. Take care.